Oh, remember me. Alright, let's do this. This could have been a really, really friggin' cool game if it weren't for a handful of shortcomings. Just on a personal level, like, I'm at a point where I've kind of had enough of the whole futuristic, dystopian, Shadowrun kind of setting. I feel like it's been done to death, so... And Remember Me's doesn't have a whole lot of originality in that sense. The gameplay felt extremely stiff, and your options are severely limited until the last few hours of the game. I think this is one of those games where I found it very boring at the beginning, and I continue to find it boring, but as I unlocked new stuff that I could do, my enjoyment of the gameplay grew to the point where by the time I was actually really enjoying the game, it was over. And that parallel, it's not just the gameplay itself, but the story too kind of parallels that trajectory where because you don't know anything, guess what? Because it's an amnesia plot. You're just trying to get your memory back. Gee, a game called Remember Me with memory being the main thing of the plot. Yeah, you're trying to regain your memory. And as you're doing that, and you're learning more about your character and your relationship with other characters, the story becomes a lot more interesting. As does the gameplay as you learn more stuff that you can actually do. But again, by the time it gets really good and it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, this is actually getting to be a pretty good game, game's over. And it's a pretty short game, maybe 10, 11 hours, you'll probably be done with Remember Me. So that's really unfortunate, because again, there were a lot of cool ideas in Remember Me that I wish the game came a lot more front-loaded with these things. Like, your loadout in terms of skills and abilities and customization, you should have had all of that from the beginning of the game and then built on that even further as you progressed. Because the only time the gameplay was actually enjoyable was at the very end of the game when you had access to a lot of your stuff, a lot of your abilities. One of the things that you can do in this game is you can customize your combos, which for a game like that, unless it's like a character action game where every button does a thing, a special thing that you can link into another thing, this isn't the case. This was more like an Arkham-style game, where each button did a specific attack. And the whole thing about the custom combos is you have preset dial-up combos. You hit X, 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 that does a combo. You hit X, Y, X, Y, Y, that does a combo. Those are your only combos. Those are the only things that count. And that'd be fine if there was more of them, but there isn't. By the end of the game, you get 5. And what makes the whole system work within this game is that you can customize the effects of each hit of those combos. So if you want, your last attack of a specific combo to heal, you can do that. If you want it to multiply a previous effect, you can do that. There's damage buffs. There's cooldowns for your special attacks. Healing, again, not even a whole lot. There's the 4 of them. Your your buff, heal, multiplier, and cooldown. Those are your 4 customizable options that you can apply to your combos, to specific hits of your combos. And that's actually a really cool concept, but again, because you don't unlock enough of these modifiers, and because you don't have a lot of combos to apply them to, it falls flat. And that sucks, because again, that's a really cool idea. And another thing that they play on is like your attacks in battle actually affect the music that plays in the middle of combat, which the first time that I noticed that, I thought, that's a really friggin' good idea that I wish more games had. And then, of course, there's what I would say makes Remember Me unique, and that's the remixing, where your character, Nilin, basically taps into someone's memory and alters it. And it's so friggin' awesome how they play out. And rather than having like some epic boss fights, sometimes you'll actually do remixing instead of that. That sort of counts as your boss fight sometimes. And they're really friggin' cool, and something that I've never seen in another game, definitely not played out the way that it does in Remember Me. And it can be pretty grim, and the implications horrifying, but again, it was really cool, but there wasn't enough of this great, cool thing. And, you know, I'm just repeating myself at this point that seems to be what the crux of Remember Me's problem. It does a lot of cool things, but it just not enough. They have these really great ideas that they don't apply enough to their game, and not in any kind of well-paced way. I mean, there were times when I was, 3-4 hours into the game and I'd considered quitting, and I'm glad that I didn't, because again, those last few hours of the game, both in terms of gameplay and story, they're really good. And I think though, if it weren't for those last few hours, I'd say that this game's shit. But I think Remember Me, if you can stomach like the first half of the game, then by all means, go ahead. It's tolerable. You can swallow it.